Welcome to Across the Desk and our new series in partnership with Maddy Dever, the Autistic Rambler. Maddy is a non-binary autistic advocate engaged in political advocacy, a parent of 5, and a very funny person. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, and we look forward to you joining the conversation. Now let's get to rambling. So hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on Across the Desk. We are back with my favorite cookie, Maddy Dever.
Hello. I am a chocolate chip cookie today.
Are you? That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, a chocolate.
Seriously, it's like a PMS dream right there.
So with a dash of a non-dairy ice cream. There you go.
Sprinkling of salt.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. Like a little bit of rock salt on there. Okay, that's not what we're talking about today.
And a little bit of chocolate drizzle.
Ooh, the hard crack stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we are jumping back into our Autistic Rambler series. If you're joining us for the first time, we have 2 other podcasts that are up where we jump into, we jump around Maddy in the first episode and learn about their life and their family and their kids and all the amazing things they do. And I honestly, this is awful. I haven't gone back into our second one yet, so it's a little bit of a blank for me, but I promise you there's a description and that'll be up shortly. But it was awesome as well. But an interesting thing came out of those initial conversations, which is Maddy identifies as non-binary and uses the pronouns they, them. I am an over 50 woman who has, I grew up with he, him, she, her, and never gave it any thought whatsoever. And I slipped a few times. And I'm trying very hard because I understand that this is a very important thing to wrap my head around, and I am making earnest effort. But Maddy and I had a chat. So this is what we're talking about today, is that whole pronoun thing.
When I think when I was a kid, I grew up with the he/ha pronouns.
Maddy and the puns. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this as an educational opportunity to share a little bit about why there's pronouns, why people like me, feel non-binary is the label, the identity that captures how we feel, and how being misgendered, having the wrong pronouns, how it feels and how it affects us. Mm-hmm. It's little slip-ups here and there, for some of us we can let pass, but continued misgender can really negatively affect us. So we're going to have an opportunity to chat a little bit about in between outside of the binaries.
Outside the binaries. Oh, I feel like that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like a book title or something, Outside the Binaries. Oh, I like that. Well, and so one of the reasons this has become a fortuitous discussion, because we picked this topic actually the week before last and then had to cancel last week. And then it has fallen on the day it should have been, because this is the non-binary week. Are we using the awareness word? Because I know that can be a little bit of a...
No, it's International Non-Binary People's Week. And tomorrow, we're, on the 14th of July every year is the International Non-Binary People's Day. And the reason why this day was chosen is it fits right in the middle between International Women's Day and International Men's Day, which I didn't know men had a day. I don't think they need a day. They've got all the rest of them.
Don't they have all the days?
Oh, yeah.
Like, we won't get into that. It ties in nicely to the Hannah Gadsby reference later, because she had a lot of interesting things to say about the men folk, which I was hysterically laughing. And for context, I have been happily married for 26 years to the same man. All good. Just a lot of white male privilege gets on my last nerve. So namaste. Some of that and I gotta go. So I would really appreciate, Maddy, if you feel comfortable sharing sort of because you've had quite the journey towards this choice.
Yeah. Okay. So there's the last 6 years has been me really unpacking. I guess the last 10 years has really been unpacking who I am, why I'm different, in many ways. Getting a diagnosis of autism was a real help, but there's more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's been this struggle all of my life, but there's been an intense trying to solve this in the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started with what really started it was one of my kids had a classmate that they became best friends, and they wanted to do a sleepover, and we talked with their parents to find out that they were transgender, and that was the first time I'd come across that. I'd known of transgender people and adults and whatnot, but a kid who was 6 years old was a first for me. And as I as I do when something is new and interesting, I delved into it, and it was to try to understand it, and like all of the feelings that I'd had all of my life about I have never had a day in my life where I have felt that I identified male. I presented that way, but struggled with that all of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learning about transgender and trying to help my kids sort of like they just accepted it. It just like they had no issue whatsoever.
As kids
It was
do,
more,
which is awesome.
Exactly. It's all really parents and adults that are the biggest problems when it comes to acceptance. But it stirred something within me that sort of rattled the masked life that I was living. I at this point I've become more and more comfortable with with my bisexuality. I'd always right from, I think when I first heard the term when I was 12 or 13, I was like, yeah, that's me. I spent a lot of my adult life like pushing that down because I was involved in a very, very far right wing church that
Oh, see, church.
they're absolute control of sexuality and control of people's bodies, especially women's. And oh my God. And so like for about 10-15 years, I shunted that down and tried to be the biblical male, and biblical leader and all that kind of crap. Yeah,
Oh, it stuck, did it?
there are stronger words than crap. So just
Does it rhyme with duck?
It's more like, imagine every animal's manure piled on together. That's just
a big poop pile. We can say poop pile.
Poop pile. Okay, poopery.
It was a poopery of poop. And that's
exactly.
One of the reasons I was raised in the church, and I was raised Anglican, right? So offshoot of Catholicism. And something always struck me as odd when the messaging that you would receive was about community, but only for certain people. And I was like, hang on a minute. Like, it always struck me as incongruous that why are we talking about love our neighbor and be generous and help others, but only some of them? And only the ones that believed like you, and only the ones who, mostly behaved like you. And I was like, but hang on a minute. Like, there's more to life than
love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your enemy. Like, there's so much talk in. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think most Christians really understand the Bible. I think they understand what they've heard, what they've been told, and so it really depends. It really depends on what part of the Bible their pastors, their priests, or whoever's focus on. And this is one of the things that around the same time that my child had this transgender friend, I had already been for the year or two previous really struggling with the hypocrisy that I was seeing in the church. I mean, at that time I was not in a far right church. I was in a, slightly to the right, centrist, church, but they still had those, there was so much focus on sexuality,
Right? Like,
and
what is that?
no focus on grace, on service, on helping people, on poverty,
Yeah.
like all of the things. Like if you if a church focused on only the things that were in the Gospels and all the things that Jesus did,
Yeah.
right? I think
The
they
world would be a better place.
But there's just so much outside of that that they focus on, and I mean, there's too much focus. So I started leaving around the same time. The really hard look at myself, and it took a few years where I started to, I guess it was around 2016 where I finally sort of nailed down the terminology, the label that fit me.
Mhm.
And I mean, at first I really thought two-spirit was that's it. Like there's some, okay, so the only real male part of me that I appreciate, that I love, is my voice.
As you
That
should,
is
because it's gorgeous.
it is the only thing. The way I look, the way, like, all of the physical body parts are a real struggle, and they have been all my life.
Yeah.
I don't feel I fit in the body that I've been given. And we fix eyes, we fix, we fix lesions, we fix all kinds of things that aren't right with their body. And the way I look, like I've looked in a way I was comfortable but not happy. And so I realized, two-spirit was really where I was thinking, but then I started really understanding about, cultural appropriation, and
Yeah.
the term really belongs to Indigenous people, and I am not an Indigenous person.
Mhm.
So non-binary really came close, because I am not fully female, although I am more feminine in all of the things that I do. The way I think, that the I can talk for hours about anything. I'm very, free with my emotions. All of the typical female things. I've been that way all my life.
Are
I
you
mean,
saying, did you just go into the stereotype that women talk too much? Did you just do that?
I did not say they talk too much.
Maddie.
I said they no. It okay. Men are boring. Men are
Well, that's true.
freaking boring. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like I've never fit with men. I've never been able. Like, I've had two males that I've been able to be friends with in all my life. It's not easy, because it's okay.
Well, they're gender conforming around sports and all kinds of,
Exactly,
yeah. Yeah.
um it's very, very shallow. And
Yep.
it's not that they're not deep, but they just can't,
They
they're
can't get
so
vulnerable.
stuck. Yeah. and
Yeah.
and anybody that's the people that I've been able to be friends with have definitely been more people who've um are not wrapped up in the masculine side. Like,
Yeah.
sort of, the people I like the most are sort of in the middle, in terms of the way the world, allocates gender expectance.
And
And
I was just grating your cheese. I know
well,
you're
yeah,
not.
it gave me an opportunity to express that. So
Yeah.
you grate the
I
cheese,
and I
and
do talk too much. So it's ironic because we were on calls yesterday. I tend to talk too much when I've had to talk too much. Right. So for the past
yeah.
2 days. So I don't know that I've ever actually introduced myself on any of these, which is really not a woman thing
Yes,
to do.
I would like to introduce you to the proof,
To the
Elizabeth.
Plouffe. Yeah. So Mama Plouffe is what my kids' friends call me. So my name's Elizabeth Plouffe, and I am the founder of Spiro Careers Canada. And we're actually actively working on a solution for the autism unemployment crisis. My son was diagnosed at 7 with Asperger's syndrome, and I know that's out of the DSMV now, but that's what he prefers. And so that's what we go with. And I've been working with the autism community steadily for probably the past 5-6 years. Because of course, when you are a parent, as Maddy is, of a kid who's autistic, your main focus is your kid who's autistic. And Maddy has 5 kids, 3, 4 of whom four are autistic. Yeah. So I can't even imagine, how my life was going with, one kid and trying to manage his autism and his dyslexia and his ADD and his executive function gaps. And, my son now doing great. He's completing a 1-year welding and fabrication program. He's just one of the loveliest guys I know, because he's so empathetic and so caring and he's funny. And sometimes his humor is a little poo pile, but he is who he is. So I can't imagine, and that was our previous podcast. Now it comes to me, we talked about intersectionality around the LGBTQ plus community and having an autism diagnosis, and all the ands that end up piling up around that. I don't know, navigating all of that, I just get a headache thinking about it. So for me and the talking piece, I've been in nothing but meetings for the past 2 days, from 8:30 in the morning until 3 or 4 o'clock at night or later. And so then I get into this mode where I don't think my mouth remembers to shut up, and because I've been doing it all day. So I think it can be a thing for women, but I think a lot of women are also too silent, because when we talk about community and gender conformity, women typically are not supposed to be verbose. We are not supposed to be assertive. And
it's in mixed company, right? That there are women get into trouble if they're loud, if they talk too much. They get in trouble if they don't talk. We're
screwed either way.
I know, and it's really, really frustrating. And the more there is a strong, so the world revolves around the cis masculine male, and anything other than that is
uncomfortable for everybody.
It's secondary or weak. So if you do not meet that, and then if you're a woman, you're going to be treated and subjected. If you're non-binary, you're going to be put down and tried, exclusions put around you. If you're trans, you may be physically attacked as well as put down. I
don't understand any of this. Why is all this fear around a penis? I really don't get it. And so Maddy and I were chatting beforehand, and I had the privilege of seeing Hannah Gadsby perform at Massey Hall on Saturday. And Paulette Goddard, who's my business partner with Aspiro Careers Canada, and I went. And part of that is because Hannah is diagnosed as autistic, but is also gay. And she's in a relationship with her wife, Jenny. And then she uses she, her. So I checked all of this beforehand for the pronoun situation. And her opening act is a person, Deanne Smith. And so Maddy and I started talking about this, and in an honest, and Maddy knows I come to this with a good heart, that I am honestly trying to learn, because it's not my community, and not that it's not my community, but it's not a space that I travel in, because I only identify as a cisgender woman. I have absolutely no issue with anybody identifying however they need to. It's just not a lane I play in. So it was an eye-opening experience, and oddly amazing, because it stopped me in my tracks to realize that if you look at the comedians that are out there, who can the gay community or the LGBTQ plus community identify with? And then here you have 2 people. Now, again, I'm trying to get it right. So throughout Deanne's set, they are non-binary with they, them pronoun. They have had top surgery. No, and this is public knowledge. I'm not, whatever. And they are not choosing to have bottom surgery, but they refer to themselves as a guy and a man throughout their set. I got thoroughly confused, I have to tell you.
So the interesting thing is Okay, you finish off, then I'll jump in.
Well, the last piece. So Hannah Gadsby, she's, if you have not seen her special Douglas on Netflix, I am telling you that you will. Every time I watch it, I learn something new. That particular special is more focused on her autism diagnosis because she was a late diagnosis, and women generally do tend to get diagnosed late in life. She also was, identified very young as being a lesbian and was living in a country, Tasmania, where being gay was illegal up until like 1998 or something stupid like that. So not only can she not navigate the world created by cisgender white males and gender conformity and all the rest of it because of her autism diagnosis, but then add that layer of being gay and getting arrested if you, tell anybody that you're, which boggles my freaking mind all over. So as we were walking in, my point being, you could see a change in the people on the street, right? So we were in the Eaton Center where it was just like mishmash of everybody. And then the people on the street, it gradually fit more and more of a particular stereotype that you could identify within the gay community. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You could just tell there was a change in the air.
There are some stereotypes. There are some people that sort of follow some stereotypical.
And we talked about that as well. I will ask your opinion off air because it was an interesting. Paula and I were fascinated, but it struck me.
So you have inquiry.
I have a lot of inquiries. Inquiring minds want to know. And I thought to myself, how amazing, Ellen DeGeneres doing what she did made it possible for what happened on Saturday. It should never have been impossible. It should never have been a situation where this community has to fight so hard to have people in media and, any type of movie to identify with. Mm-hmm. Now, the struggle for me as a cisgender woman was that some of the comedy, like, because I don't have that struggle, right? Like husband, we just live in the world the way we live in the world. It was freaking hysterical. Like if you ever get a chance to see Hannah Gadsby live, I hope Deanne Smith is with her because she appropriate or otherwise, what was hysterical was like, so she announced, and obviously, understandably, the audience got the significance. Everybody should have, but got the significance. So they announced, that they had top surgery, and everybody was like, wow! I'm like, good for you. And then she's like, but the sad thing is, the world is a worse place because I had an amazing rack. And now my rack is in some biohazard whatever, and nobody will get to experience my rack ever again. And I was just like, I want to sit down and have a tea with you because you are hysterical and could help with my inquiring mind. But it was that realization that I walk through life on the easy path, easier than most. As a woman, do I face some crap? Absolutely. And as a woman technology founder, as a woman entrepreneur, as a whatever, I get my own layer of, crud, but nothing that would ever harm me physically, like a transgender individual would face. But it was that realization that it shouldn't be so impossible. It shouldn't be so hard. Like, what is there to be afraid of?
It's fear of being different, fear of change, fear. Everything is so wrapped up in the male id. It's the PNID. You look at, I know. You look at the autism what are you, 5 years old today?
Okay. You're the one blushing, not me. I'm just saying.
I'm not blushing. I'm laughing. I'm also trying to remember what I'm trying to say, as I'm also cutting jokes with you. The autism diagnosis. We talked about the fact that women are diagnosed later in life than boys is because the diagnosis was all revolved around what what a white 3, 4, 5-year-old boy should be. And if they're
Exactly.
not like that, then we have to look at why. And so it's so many psychological and mental health conditions were created based on why a young white boy is not behaving properly.
Yeah.
So we've been growing from that, and we've been
The problem is we haven't been growing from that. We need to grow from that.
No, I'm saying there's been incremental changes,
Yeah.
but fundamentally, the diagnosis is still the diagnostic criteria, and the
Yeah.
way that medical professionals have been taught is still around that, how that white boy should be. That's why so many Black kids get misdiagnosed. And so many diagnoses of oppositional defiant, end up when they're 12, 15, 20, being re-diagnosed with autism, with no, like, it's because there's a cultural bias, and
So many biases.
girls are, I know girls, so many autistic girls tend to fall through the cracks because they don't misbehave, right?
They mask better. Yeah,
exactly. And
yep.
and it's so that there's all of these things that reasons why, but
we're also taught to be silent though. So here's going back to the earlier statement. So there's two things there that you got me thinking about. One, we are still to this day, what happened? My cousin's son got attacked by another kid his age. And the mother of the kid who attacked, her response was, boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys.
I just about lost my nut. Like, no, violent behavior, just because they have testosterone does not make it okay. And then to your point about, there's two things there. The one thing I wonder is if you have an intersectionality of going through and discovering how you identify gender-wise, sexual orientation, what have you, that's a lot to be dealing with. And, what do you out yourself with first? Do you out my son does not, and he knows I do this podcast and I've talked to him and I have his permission, but none of his group, none of where he engages listen to me. So that's why it's fine. He does not disclose his diagnosis. So now you add a layer of something else that the community in general tries to make shameful. They try and make mental health issues shameful. They try and make mental differences shameful. Quite frankly, they try and make boobs shameful because you should not breastfeed him. I remember breastfeeding my daughter and I had to go in the car and cover in the car because, God forbid anybody see me feeding my baby. So you have those different layers. And if you already are different, right? And I mean that in a very respectful way with the autism diagnosis, and you are experiencing the world sometimes on a traumatic basis daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you really have the energy and the resources to explore whether the gender you were given at birth and the sexual orientation community requires you to have is something that you want to buck the trend on?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a divide, not a physical divide, not a we are this, you are that, but I would say there's a divide in the autistic community, just autistics in general. Some of us buck the trend because we can't not. So we are going to dress the way we want to dress. We are going to talk the way we're going to talk. We are going to express ourselves the way we express. We are going to have relationships regardless of who they're with. And then there's and we are going to experience the traumas along through the way.
Yep.
But we can't not do that. And then there's those who, because they've experienced the traumas, they push down the full expression of themselves, because they don't want to have more of they don't want to have more, get attacked more. They don't want to be singled out. They don't want to be treated differently. The thing is, I mean, I every time I see people try to hide their diagnosis, they tend to struggle more because they don't get the support they need, because
Yep.
like it's sometimes expressing sharing your diagnosis is going, sometimes it will have people think differently of you. But the reason when I'm an out and proud autistic, so I'm intentionally out with it so that I can open more doors for other people.
You use your diagnosis, if I may say, in a very respectful way. You use it to your advantage in a very good way, but you are also using it in a way, and I'm sorry, I'm gathering my thoughts at the same time because I want to keep my language in the right thing. And I think Maddy knows where I'm going, but there are folks who have a diagnosis and they use it to their advantage in a negative way to get out of things, to evade responsibility. And my son has done this, granted when he was very young, but I see a lot of interesting stuff. And we are going to circle back to the non-binary because this does come together. It's all around labels, right? And Maddy is very inspiring to me in a way that he doesn't let that diagnosis, you just have to talk to you for 5 minutes and all the stereotypical assumptions around an autistic individual are gone. Like that part, and you provide an opportunity for people to see what's possible and what's far more common than we give credit for. Right? And that's where, when you've moved into the non-binary community and in embracing that piece, you've added another layer of visibility to a community that greatly needs it.
Yeah, it's I am so fortunate that we're at a time where more and more people are I think many people have been non-binary for a long time.
Yeah,
but
totally agree.
The label hasn't been out there. I think queer people tend to, if you look back at the way queer people in the 80s and 90s presented themselves, it's very almost very similar to the way non-binary people present. There's a lot of similarities. So I think we've always been here, but there's more and more people stepping into that and using that label to describe themselves, because it's so we're definitely not one or the other, but we're either neither, we're both, we're somewhere in the middle. I mean, and it can change, but we're definitely not one or the other. I think that's the
and what is wrong with that? Like, why does that spark such visceral reaction in folks? Because it's like, but everybody, so every human on the planet has a mix of hormones. I mean, if I remember correctly, and anybody's welcome to, we all start out, by the way, as females. Exactly. And and then a little willy presents itself, and then off you go. But everybody has.
If you pass the testes, you move on.
If you pass, go. But I had this conversation with a doctor actually, who was so dismissive. And to go back to you made a comment earlier about what can happen to cisgender women. And so one of the things that happens to cisgender women when it comes to the healthcare in particular, we are diagnosed, I think at a rate of something astronomical. I got to find it. But for heart attacks, for an example, all of the criteria to have a heart attack was all based on cisgender males. And so women were dying at an astronomical rate because everything was about some white guy who had put together the criteria based on other white guys. And I got to tell you, I am a white female, but I have different situations going on that influence my propensity towards a cardiac event. And women present entirely differently when having a cardiac event than men do. And it's that whole biased lens from that establishment that influences it, which is, again, why women get diagnosed later as autistic, because we are told to be quiet and we are told to not complain, and we are told not to make trouble. And all of those behaviors that can be consistent with an autistic individual in their younger, my son was, I can't tell you the number of phone calls I got from the freaking principal and whatever, because Thomas was, we were learning how his autism diagnosis worked for him, because it's different for everybody. He didn't have the tools yet to deal with the impulse control and some of the other things he shows up with. And they kept measuring him against their version of a typical autism diagnosis. And I think it's those labels, right?
Yeah.
And what they can do to you, like they can do for you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not label averse, because I believe that in some cases it can be beneficial. But when the label causes you mental harm, and when living with that label makes you feel bad about yourself, and when society forces you to live with a label that, you know, we're back to the scratchy underwear, like, why? Like, what? I got into an argument with somebody because they're like, well, why should the minority tell the majority what to do? And I was like, what's the, and
so
white male.
I think we need to move now to talk about one of the big reasons I think that there's a put off, because I think when it comes down to pronouns, that's pronouns and changing names. Those are the two bits that really put a mental emotional barrier for some people to why they can't accept no. I think if we're non-binary and we didn't have, they didn't have to, if we didn't have pronouns, I don't think it would make a difference. But pronouns are essential because he and she are binary. We need to go to something that's neutral in order to identify ourselves. And so they, them is, what I use. And okay, so they, them has been singular way longer than it's been used in plural things. And we use, I guarantee you that every single person listening to this podcast has used singular they at least
you caught me out last week.
In the last couple hours.
I
know.
You're like,
last week
you just did it.
Yeah. We were having a conversation about this, trying to understand it. And you made a comment about something that they did, but the they was a person, a singular person that we were talking about. We naturally do that. When we see a car going by, it's like, it's went past red light. It's like, look at what they did. One person in the car. You don't know who's in it. You're assigning the singular to some place that's
because we don't know the gender of the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use this all of the time. But the problem is when you're looking at a person, right? You need to be intentional about something. You can make up until the last 10 years, you would either say, if you saw a person, you say, look what he did, look what she did. And now we're trying to make room for this middle, because like assuming somebody's gender has always been problematic. Okay, I think back, I hate it now, but I think back to Saturday Night Live.
You have like 2 water bottles and a coffee thing somewhere. Do you need to take a swig out of that? Like, what are we doing?
Oh, sometimes my twist gets tongued.
I don't know whether to wind your ass or scratch your watch. Gotcha.
Exactly. So Saturday Night Live had a skit, a character. It's Pat.
Yeah, I remember Pat.
Could not tell Pat what gender Pat was, and everybody tried, finding a way of asking questions to ascertain it, and it was always, gender neutral things that was thrown back, and it was impossible. Now it was a characteristic, a character, but we've always. There's always been problems trying, because not everybody who appears a particular way is that gender. There's always been a murky middle,
Yep.
Now there's a pronoun for it. And I guess, going back to when I talked to you about the when the classmate of my child, I then just it just started that I was connecting more with people who were trans or non-binary, and the pronoun they, I started trying to work on intentionally using they as a starting point,
Mm-hmm.
so that it was easier for me. It's easier to say, okay, first of all, why do we use pronouns too much? we sometimes use pronouns because, instead of saying the person's name, we'll use the pronoun again and again and again and again. Like,
That's a
I
safety
look through
net. So hang on.
literature.
So that's a safety net, because I think
Yeah, yeah,
I sometimes, I got to be honest with you. I got introduced to somebody today. I could not tell you their name for the life of me. And part of that is because we don't actively listen. And my brain had already gone on to what I wanted to ask the person they were speaking to about. So I,
yeah,
said, hello, nice to
yeah,
meet you, did a fist bump, yada, yada, yada. Went out of my head. I
yeah.
feel really bad about that. But so I wonder if that's part of it, is that that's sort of a safe, you're not going to insult somebody.
So, all right. So that's where I'm moving to, how I changed, how,
Yeah.
because I was an ally before, I had an identity, and I started, in, just practicing saying they, them, them, so that was my starting point with somebody. It was talking about they or them,
Yeah.
until I knew that, if somebody like, I've learned to ask, what are your pronouns, not what are your preferred pronouns. That Get rid of
That's
that
dismissive.
that word.
That's
Yeah,
dismissive
no,
and
it's
not nice.
yes, yeah. People don't have preferred names. People don't have preferred pronouns. They have their names that they use,
Yep.
and the pronouns that they use. And there's so much gendered words that we need to get rid of, because they really create this add to the dysphoria that people have. And dysphoria is basically, gender dysphoria is where you're uncomfortable with the gender you're uncomfortable with the body that you're in based on the sex that you were assigned at birth. And it can be really challenging. And so the use of pronouns, or the misuse of pronouns, the misgendering, really hurts. Like, okay, so I'm gonna share how it feels.
Okay.
So I when I go to a restaurant and somebody says, excuse me, sir, what would you like?
Mhm.
Sir, Mr. and Sir, all there's so much use of titles. There's so much use of assumed use that, I usually correct somebody and say I'm non-binary. I usually wear a pin on me, which doesn't really help, actually. People who are queer say, "Oh, I have that pin. I love the pin that you're wearing." Yeah. Anyways, taste the rainbow.
Then the neurogenders don't care. So then you're just like,
exactly.
okay.
But it's I if somebody called me Miss or Mrs. Or she, I would have. I like that. I don't mind that at all. I have a real hard problem when I'm continually misgendered as male, and it's I'm trying to. Okay, so let's go back to the rack comment.
Mm-hmm. It was hysterical. They went on about that for a while, and I was like, I don't know where to look.
Yeah.
Like, I just
one of the biggest problems that I think trans and non-binary people have is the body that we've been given is really difficult to really fully express ourselves. Like, we can change our clothing, we can change our hair, but there's certain parts of the way our body expresses itself that it is struggle. So for women, breasts are the the biggest reminder that, there's something, that their body's different than the way that it wants to be.
Yeah.
That's, so many people do top surgery or breast enhancement than bottom. Bottom is a real,
That's a very invasive
yeah,
like
absolutely.
that's a big commitment.
Yeah. So I mean, breasts, we sexualize breasts.
Yep.
The whole body is sexual. Like every part of your body is sexual, but we've hyper focused on breasts.
Yeah.
Even your elbow.
Yeah. But I mean, so yes, and because we have to move towards a tie up. So I think the easy thing, though, one of the reasons breasts get so sexualized is because for a lot of women, myself included, they are a significant part of our anatomy that is easily accessible and easily, no matter what you do. And so when I first started, developing, I was a young developer. It was like 10 or 11 when things started showing up. And I had no idea what to do with these things. And I was like, what the hell? And on top of that, you're running around with 11 and 12-year-old boys who also have their own situation going on. And at that age, it becomes sexualized, right? And comments and whatever else. I wore the same blue hoodie, for an entire year, because it was the only piece of clothing I had that would cover my boobs. And I didn't know how to say to my mom and dad, and trust me, I am fully okay with my body. It's not a dysmorphia thing. It's not a whatever thing. It's just a weird hormone growing up thing. I am not trying to appropriate or own anything. This was just my experience with it, that I was like, I don't know what these things are. Boys keep trying to touch them. I'm not okay with strangers touching me on a good day. So, making comments about me and drawing attention to me for that reason, super not comfortable. That was the only way I couldn't express what that feeling was. And I couldn't figure out a way to deal with it. So this gross hoodie for like a year was my solution.
So we really should have a talk about sex and puberty. Because
we've mentioned, every other part of the anatomy. So.
I know. So because one of the things that I don't think kids are taught, and especially autistic kids, is the feelings that you're going to have. You can talk about, show a picture of your body changing, but until it happens, like there's like everything for puberty is all about, there's inside changes in all of the way. Like it's not just your physical body changes, everything inside you, the way you think and how you feel and how emotions and
but all the prep work. So all the prep work that you do, and I think this is where we can come to a wrap up. All the prep work that you're put through in public school and with your parents is all about when you have sex.
Yes.
All of
it.
How to not do it, how to prevent a pregnancy out of it. Whatever. So how can we help but not feel sexualized when all of the classes we're given to deal with those changes are all about getting, for girls, it's all about, no touchy, no feely, no, this is this. And we're getting a little off topic here, but that's where coming back, right, to dealing with how you feel in your body. That's a universal thing. Everybody has a struggle on some level which was the point of me sharing that. Everybody's got something that they're dealing with. And that was probably the only time in my entire existence that I have lived with shame. Other than that, I'm like, I like my rack, quite frankly. So does my husband. So I'm good to go. That part I don't care about.
Yeah. So what I was going to, I just wanted to finish off before we got down to the puberty world. Was,
puberty world
for those assigned male at birth, hair, facial hair, body hair. That is the biggest problem. Me, like we're listening to this, the audio of this, but if you saw a picture of me right now, I struggle because I my facial hair grows so fast. You know, I used when I was
I think it's
I used
grown
to
over
joke,
like the hour we've been talking. I got to tell you.
I know. So I used to joke that when I was 12, I would have to shave twice a day because I would get 5 o'clock shadow at noon.
Yeah.
And until I was 14, and I just grew a beard, and I kept a beard until, you know,
I saw a picture of it.
yeah, I know. I had a beard until a year and a half ago, when I decided that, you know, I fully came out as non-binary, and I realized the only things I can do to change, you know, right now was, you
Some
know, I
control.
grew my hair. I grew my hair,
Yep.
and which is very long now. And my kids
Braiding
are
it.
getting to the point with, because it grows fast, they're getting jealous that I'm going to compete with them. But also, my facial hair, I guess. So I shaved my beard off, but it's a struggle for me because it grows so fast. Like right
Yeah.
now, you know, I shaved 2 days ago, and it's half there. You
Yep.
know, and if another 2 days, you would see visible beard, and it's a real
Oh,
struggle
quickie,
for me.
you can see
This is
visible beard now. I get it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there are
This is
things you
something that
can,
I need to work.
yeah.
Exactly. This is something
Yeah.
I'm talking with my doctor about. That uh, it's a process. You know, the transitioning into accepting who you are, and trying to, you know,
Live
have your
within
body
that. Yeah.
become more what you're comfortable with. So pronouns help. They are essential for identity. You know, because when somebody we if you have a dog, and the dog, somebody comes up and says, "Oh, how is he doing?" or "How is she doing?" They say, "Oh, actually, it's a male," or else it's like, "Oh, okay, no problem." We have no
Why
problem
can't we
doing
do that for
this.
people?
Exactly.
What's
Why
the
is there
BFD?
like, what does it do to you if you just have to change one word?
Yeah, I totally
Why?
agree with
Why
you.
is this so hard?
And it's
And
interesting
yeah,
because we go back to the itchy underwear, and I have to wonder if you made a very difficult decision, but one that ultimately is one that you can live with in your skin, which is what is most important.
yeah.
And how you present to the world, how you engage with the world has to match on some level with how you feel about yourself,
Mhm.
which I applaud because that's a hard decision to make. And again, we said this in the first and the second. Get it through your heads, folks, that if somebody is lesbian, gay, queer, trans, non-binary, two-spirit, there's more letters. I'm not being disrespectful. I just don't know all of them. Believe me when I say they had no choice. This is not a road you would choose to make your life more complicated. Like, nobody does that. So when
Yeah.
somebody takes the time to try and educate you about the pronouns that they prefer, do yourself a solid, check your ego, and listen to the individual. They are sharing that with you because it is important to them, not because they're being difficult, not because they're being precious or whatever. They're sharing it with you because it's important to them. If I came up to you, right? So I identify my she, her, and I don't mind the misses because I married the guy. So I'm okay with the misses. I earned it. Been married for 26 years. God dang it. But if I decide to be Madame Gazula, like, it doesn't matter whether you agree that I should be called Madam or not. It matters that it's important to me. Just like if I introduce myself as Elizabeth to somebody and they shorten my name to Liz, it makes me nutso. Don't do that. You don't have permission to do that. I did not introduce myself as Liz. We're not friends yet. And there's very few people that call me Liz. So if you pay people the respect of using the name that they introduced themselves as to you, it is no different than if somebody like Maddy or many of the other people that are needing this pronoun change to educate you with that and ask you to use the pronouns that are respectful for them. Just like you wouldn't meet if Maddy introduced themselves as Matthew, you should, by rights, continue to call Matthew Matthew until they decide you can call them Maddy. Likewise, if Maddy introduces themselves as Maddy, you stick with Maddy. You do not change it to Matthew. There is no difference. And whatever your hangups are about it, get on. Like, just get going.
Yeah.
Just stop making it an issue.
There was an interesting thing I saw on Facebook. It was sort of a meme that, like, we have no problem calling actors by their stage names instead of their
John Wayne.
Yeah,
because he's Marion Rogers, wasn't it? Was his real name?
Exactly. Yeah. And even
there's a lot. There's a lot, like Michael
Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen, yes, is Estevez his last name?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like he just recently said, that like he wishes that he'd kept his his actual name, his birth name.
Yeah.
But he was too afraid of
backlash,
being other things. But the thing is, like, we know that his name is Estevez, but he goes by Martin Sheen, and so we call him Martin Sheen instead of Martin Estevez. Because that's what he's chosen to continue as. We have no problem doing this for people we respect. So why can't you do it with the people in front of you?
Well, and to that build on that, when, if we go back to the days of heavy immigration, people would arrive at the border, and we'll say New York just for shits and giggles. And because the individual there couldn't pronounce the name, they would just change it, and they had no problem with that. So it's no different. If somebody can adopt a stage name, if somebody can adopt a pen name as a writer, if somebody can adopt a name for, like Beyonce has a last name, nobody calls her Beyonce Jones. They just call her Beyonce. Nobody calls Madonna Sicione or whatever the hell her last name is. And I can assure you that Lady Gaga was not born Lady Gaga. She's Stephanie, whatever her last name is.
Exactly.
What's the difference? Can I start calling you Lady Gaga?
Sure. Actually, or Lady Cookie.
Ooh. And so Maddy and I've had the conversation about the cookie thing, because that's helping me to remember it's a process around the pronouns. Our point around this is pronouns need to be desexualized. They need to be degenderized. They need to be respectful. And if an individual introduces themselves to you, I go by she, her, do whatever you got to do. We've talked about sort of the degenderizing of dude and bro and man, of all things, because like my parents are from the north of England and everybody gets called, hey man, what are you doing? Like and it's not man male. It's like man is interchangeable with you. We need to keep the conversation going. We need to keep the fear out of it. We need to reduce the bias that's created by a narrow lens that then stunts conversation, negatively impacts mental health, and is just plain out disrespectful, folks. Like, it's just, I remember when I was an instructor, one of my students kept calling me Miss. And that really bothered me, because I am a Mrs. and I identify as, and I said to her, you can call me Elizabeth or you can call me Mrs. Plouffe, but I'm not a fan of Miss. And you know what she did? She totally disregarded that direct instruction and just basically said it was easier for her to call me Miss than respect what I had asked. And I was like, so I'm just going to call you Toadface from now on, because, that's kind of what works for me, if that's all right with you then. And think about that. If somebody says, I'd like you to call, my pronouns are they, them, and you disrespect that, you're making a choice. Likewise, that individual can start to call you asshole, because that's their choice. Equally disrespectful. So It's a game
It's all about
changer.
respect. Yeah.
It's a game changer for the individuals who have made the hard decision to finally be who they need to be, who they were born to be. The world's a tough enough place. We don't need to add this layer. It doesn't need to be this big controversy and this big conversation. It just needs to be, just do it. Just try. At least say you're trying.
Yeah.
I don't know. Keep going. We got to wrap up in a minute and a half.
Yeah. I mean, for people who are non-binary, who are trans, I mean, what the world needs right now, as we're all transitioning to a world that's fully acceptance of the
spectrum,
the spectrum. We need patience. We need patience for ourselves, and we need patience with others. When we see people trying, we gotta double down on our patience. Yeah, we gotta double down our patience. Take opportunities to pull people aside and say, hey, can we try to use this? I noticed you've used this term. Can you try to use this term? And I know it's hard because I've had times where I've been brutally misgendered intentionally, and being an online person does not help that. I had Jordan Peterson's folks go after me for about a week straight. It was rough, but so I know we've had these issues, but when we see people trying, double down on your patience to help them,
because you'll turn them into advocates.
Yeah, absolutely. Advocates, allies, we need a lot of them. And people who are, all I ask is that you start by trying. The more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Have you noticed that I think this time, I don't think I foobarred?
I think there was a one only, and it was like, you could barely
I think
hear.
I corrected though.
You moved on and didn't even worry about it. Like it was one of those, it was just but all the rest of the time, you got it. You got you got they, them, their goods there.
All right, I have to hop.
The other pronoun that grammarians tend to use is, and that you could really drive them crazy with, is there.
Oh, don't even, man. Now we're getting into a whole level. See, I just did the man thing, but I mean, just don't even. Lady cookie, like lady biscuits. Ooh, all right. Never. Anyway, moving on. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And this won't be the last time that Maddy and I have a conversation about identity and gender and autism and all the rest of it. But just know that there are those of us who are, we're sticking with our boring path, that are here to be allies and advocates and here to have the conversation. And hopefully the folks who are struggling to get on board with the pronoun changes are at least willing to listen and learn. And that's what we're here about. That's what the Autistic Rambler is for, for us to chat and share ideas and hopefully inspire ideas in other people. But I now have to go act like an adult and have a meeting with somebody. So we're going to wrapping it up. And I think Maddy just froze. So that could be good timing. That's the universe's way of saying, get off the damn podcast, you turkey. So thank you for joining us today. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them wherever you're listening from. Maddy, always a delight.
Absolutely. I look forward to doing this again.
Lady Delight. Oh, this could go on for a while.
Lady in red.
Oh God, don't do that.
Lady Madonna.
Oh, all right. Rabbit hole.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Little rabbit foo-foo hopping through the forest. Okay. Say goodbye, Maddy.
Bye, Maddy.
Thank you for joining us on Across the Desk and our new series, The Autistic Rambler. Please visit spirocareerscanada.ca to learn more about the tools we're building with the autism community, and please visit theautisticrambler.com to learn more about Maddy Dever.